Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivodbhutai Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivangkuro Jagadidam Prangnirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Deshakala Kalana Vaichitra Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vidrumbhayatyapi Mahayogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Bande Guru Paramparam. Om. Verse number 9. Satchidatmanyanusyute Nitye Vishnu Prakalpitaha Vyaktayo Vividha Sarvaha Hatake Katakadivat. So in the introduction, Shankaracharya ji pointed out that this spiritual sadhanam can be divided into two stages. First is a qualification of gaining knowledge. Knowledge alone will solve the problem. The solution to the human problem is knowledge. Activity, etc. is there that Puja Swamiji is discussing. That's for gaining chitta shuddhi, etc. Divided into two. So purification of the mind for gaining self-knowledge, and second is the acquisition of knowledge through Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Shravanam is the sadhanam, means for gaining knowledge. Once you gain knowledge and think about it more, subject matter, the various doubts are created. So Mananam will resolve the doubt. Mananam cannot basically give the knowledge. Shravanam alone. Shravanam means not just listening. Listening from the teacher's mouth, etc., that's true, but the subject matter is the Shastra. And therefore, Shravanam and Mananam together gives you the clarity of the knowledge. Then owning up, because it's old habit, taking oneself to be an individual, etc., jiva, karta, bhokta, etc. Anytime one thinks of oneself, one has the awareness that I am a limited being. That's it. What I am that much is the reality, in fact. I stands for consciousness, am stands for existence. Even in a grammar, am, is, are, all these are the verbs for to be. So I am is the reality. It happens to be self-revealing consciousness. You know you are a conscious being. You don't need a Swami to talk to you. But later part is adhyasa. Later part is an error. I am a human being. Over. That's it. Shastra does this. So, what is the later part you should remove? And you say, I am limitless consciousness. You are not a limited conscious being. You are limitless consciousness, etc. So anyway, that is where the pramana is. But you have to own it up. You have to own it up, but that takes time, because the old habit of taking oneself to be an individual, subject to birth and death, and punyam and papam, and subject to prarabdha. And I don't know, Swamiji, what kind of karmas I have done. So I am subject to karmas, etc. Anyway, so all these problems basically will go away. Taking oneself to a limited being will go away in course of time. Owning a process is called nididhyasana, by which you definitely get rid of this old habit. So after mentioning all this to both the steps, gaining the qualification and then gaining knowledge. In first 5 verses, then Acharya said why we say the self-knowledge alone gives moksha. To establish that, Shankaracharya pointed out that all our emotional problems are due to self-ignorance, and knowledge alone can remove the jnanam. That is a law. There is a law available in the universe. If you are ignorant of yourself, knowledge alone is a solution. And so, but then how do you say that ajnanam is a cause of the problem? Ignorant, then we are discussing in this verse 6 to 14 that while ignorance leads to the projection, and what is projected happens to be unreal but taken as a real. Yesterday we discussed. And then definitely a sense of limitation, duality, everything is created, and there is a constant struggle between you and the world. You yourself take as a jiva, Jagat also happens to be Satyam, and there is a constant fight between jiva and Jagat all the time. Most of our complaints, if you look at in your in a book, you will find it's all pertaining to the world. Maybe person, situation, some object. So, because it happens to be, Jagat happens to be real for us. Anyway, so that is how the samsara comes. But the truth actually is I am all-pervading, non-dual consciousness, whole. Pujya Swamiji used to call it as a whole. Water is whole. No wave has a capability to divide the water. The very arising of the wave is, very being of the wave is the water. That wave, which is mithya. Anything which has not its own being is mithya. Yeah. That cannot divide the water. But while wave has been given as a reality as though, one name and form, and then the ocean valley is another reality, well then there is a constant struggle, there is a comparison with another wave, then there is a jealousy, and other all issues. All emotional issues arise. Once the water takes itself to be just a wave, then definitely due to this superimposed duality, all problems will come. Wave duality, wave-ocean duality, etc. And so then he talks about this Dvaita Prapancha, and he broadly divided this Dvaita Prapancha, Jiva and Jagat, into 2. First is even though there is only one thing, we discussed, right, that there is only one thing called clay, but several names and forms have been superimposed, earthenware, each has been given as a reality, and duality arises. Here also one substance, Brahman, there is nothing other than Brahman, but while due to ignorance or the Maya, which has projected the Jiva and Jagat and having given the reality to both of them, so then this Dvaita has been created. So one is a projection of the false world, Jagat Adhyaropa, the Prapancha Adhyaropa on Brahman, and the other is a projection of an individual, Sharira Adhyasa, on the Brahman or Atma. So both due to self-ignorance, and to support this view, well, he gives an example, Sapna Tulya. He gives an example of a Sapna Prapancha, that how a one waker, which is non-dual, well, goes to the dream under the spell of ignorance called deep sleep state, and he projects the dream universe as well as the dreamer, dream body, etc. And then there is a constant struggle of a dreamer with the dream objects. It may be a dream thief, it may be a dream tiger, or anything. The reality happens to be just a waker. reality is just a waker. There is no other reality. But that waker alone appears in the form of entire dream world and the dreamer also. So and then, well, definitely for dream transaction, you need a dream body, special body, with a special sense organs and, special spectacles and special hearing aid and special denture and everything for transacting with the dream world, experiencing the dream world. So this macro and micro adhyasa, the dream world, micro adhyasa, the dreamer, well, both are responsible for the dreamer. I mean, considering dream world is different from himself. Same way here also, I am Brahman, happen to be limitless consciousness. That's a reality about me. While not knowing that, projected this Jiva and Jagat both, and having given reality to both of them. And so the whole Dvaita Prapancha has been projected, and now we are also struggling in this waking world. Most of all the human beings will try to solve the problem, well, in the varieties of the situation, thinking that he would really, his all problems would come to an end. Thinking, and the Jagat happens, he takes the Jagat as a real and tries to solve the issues. And that problem never comes to an end. Problem is only that he has to wake up. The problems pertaining to the dream world, the dreamer was facing, the only solution was he has to wake up. That's it. No problem should be solved by the dreamer in the dream world, experiencing dream world. Nothing to be done. But dreamer struggles. Well, he has to just wake up. Once he wakes up, he starts laughing at the problems facing in the dream world as a dreamer. It's the issue. And therefore, here also we have to wake it up. Uttishtata jagrata prapya varan nibodata. This is waking up is Bhagavan also uses, and Kathopanishad Yamadharmaraja also uses. Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato munehe. Right? So for the Jnani, where he is waking, there all people are sleeping. And where he is sleeping, all people are waking. All the people are aware of this dualistic world, considering as a real. There this Jnani is sleeping, thinking it is all mithya. And where Jnani has woken up in this non-dual oneself, there the people are sleeping. They don't know this Advaita, etc. Anyway, so Samashti Adhyasa and Vyashti Adhyasa have been talked about. Samashti Adhyasa have been talked about in verse number 8. And it has been said like, Upadane akhiladhare jaganti parmeshware sargasthiti layanyanti budbudani varini. All the worlds have been superimposed upon this Brahman which is timeless. Worlds appear and resolve within framework of time. Anything which appears and resolves is within time. And all these names and forms belong to that category. Maybe a big thing or a small thing, everything. And, well, the support of, and it's on, all these worlds are superimposed upon what? On Brahman which is timeless. And therefore, all the worlds are like Budbuddha, bubbles. Even though they are existing in geological time, but they are Budbuddha. When the water is reality, any Budbuddha, any this kind of a bubble, how much a life of a bubble will be there in comparison to the water, right? Water has no life. It doesn't begin, it doesn't end, relatively. Budbuddha arises and subsides. So these all worlds which are superimposed upon this Brahman are like that. So this is Samashti Adhyasa. And then we started this Vyashti Adhyasa. Satchidatmani anusyute nitye Vishnau prakalpitaha vyaktayaha. Vyaktayaha. Vividaha vyaktayaha. Vyakti, individual. Various bodies have been superimposed. And vividaha, they are many and varied. Many and varied. Nana vidani pushpani samarpayami. Nana, many. Vidani, vividani, variety. So one name and form, Puja Swamiji was talking yesterday, one form is different from other form, third form, even though all are human beings, all are different. So various Vyaktis, individual bodies have been superimposed upon Brahman. Simply superimposition would not create a problem. Understanding it is superimposition. But the second second function of the ignorance is giving the reality. We call it as the first day I said it as a Avarana Shakti. Avarana Shakti means what is the real nature, what is the substance has been covered. And then, so I am basically Brahman, but it has been covered. And so I take myself as a Jiva. That's a reality for me. So Jiva means all the three bodies, really speaking, are superimposed upon this Brahman. I identify. Jiva is none other than a conscious being with three shariras. We are going to talk about three shariras today. Very beautifully, Acharya gives the various features of all the three bodies. Anyway, so vividaha vyaktayaha prakalpita, projected. Where Nitye, Vishnu, Satchidatmani, which is all pervading, and Satchidatmani. Atmani means a Swarupam, which is of the nature of Satchit, and Nitya, which is timeless. Satchidatmani anusute Nitya Vishnu, prakalpitaha. Exactly like the waker, right? Under the spell of the deep sleep, several bodies and all the jivas in the dream world, all are prakalpita, projected upon this waker only. The truth is, all are non-substantial, unreal projection. Dream tiger is nothing but the thought disturbance, basically, in the waker's mind, under the spell of sleep. But it's just a thought disturbance. Dreamer will not approve. Dreamer will say, that tiger is a solid animal with 500 pounds or whatever, with flesh and blood and everything. But the fact is, that dream tiger is nothing but a small thought in waker's mind. It's a non-substantial. Same way, whole this universe, they are just, non-substantial. All the names and forms are non-substantial compared to the substance. Substance is one, that is Brahman, Satchit. And here the example, of course, is we definitely talk again and again about dream, but Acharya gives various examples. Hatake katakadivat, kataka, bangle. Adi padat, you can take kundalam, earrings, etc. So, hatake katakadivat, hataka. On the gold you superimpose these various ornaments. All the ornaments you take, they are substance, solid. Oh, Swamiji, I have a earring which weighs 10 grams. Earrings do not weigh 10 grams. Gold weighs 10. But this is how we also take that way. Non-substantial has been taken as a substantial. Every name and form is taken as a substantial. It's not true. So anyway, so this is how, hatake katakadivat, now I don't want to go again to the dream example. So, Katakadi means they are all, ornaments are many, names and forms are many, which are superimposed are many. On which you superimpose is one entity, that is gold. Anyway, verse number 9. Yatha kasho rishikeshah nanopadigato vibhuhu tadbhedadi bhinnavad bhati tannashe kevalo bhavet. So last bhavet, that ta is complete ta, that's not correct. We have to put another stroke there. So bhavet. So here Shankaracharya says, before superimposition of this dualistic universe in form of a micro, etc., I was a whole, Paramatma, Brahman. But because of ignorance, I project this dualistic universe in form of micro and macro. I myself appear in the form of this finite Jivatma, etc. So one non-dual Paramatma, because of the superimposition, appears as manifold, pluralistic Jivatmas. And this conversion from Paramatma to Jivatma, in really speaking, it is fall. It's a Paramatma to Jivatma is a fall, but this fall is not a real fall. It's a seeming fall. For that he gives an example also, and he explains that here. Yatha Akasha. Akasha is his own glory, all-pervading, non-dual, undivided space. That is only one. But what happens? Well, when you make a pot or make a hall, etc., make a house, rooms, etc., then the same space gets a new name. Right? When you say, I am filling a water in the pot, you are filling a water in a pot space. I'm sitting in my living room. You are sitting in living room space. But nobody uses the word space. I'm traveling in flight from London to New York. You are traveling in flight space. But we never say, even though we utilize the space, but the space has been removed. Pot space, instead we say pot. I'm filling water in pot. Filling water in pot means one should fill water in that wall. Right? But you cannot. So anyway, so space got a new name called pot and room and hall and etc. etc. Anyway, so the one indivisible space which is all pervading has got new name and new sizes. It literally a fall compared to the space which is all pervading pot space. Naturally, it is so small. So, when you say this pot, room, house, hall, etc., for the word space, so now space has got different names, and space has got different sizes also. Big room, big hall, small hall, etc. Big pot, small pot. And definitely pot space and the room space are different, have a different sizes. But it's actually a fall for the space, right? Indivisible, all-pervading space as though it has fallen into a small space. Now, so all because of what? What is responsible for the fall of the space? Well, containers, enclosures, called upadhi, nana upadhi, many upadhis. So various enclosure or containers. But on inquiry, you will definitely find all these enclosures have not divided the space. The divisions are false division. No wall can divide space. If wall can divide space, then that shows that space is subject to division. If space is subject to division, we should go to the outside of the city and divide the space as per the requirement of our and we should bring it, because we are always in short of the space in our homes, right, in our houses. So we can bring the space and put. So definitely the pot has divided the space into small and big and etc. That's not true. Just as water you can bring water from Krishna river, you can bring water from Ganges, that you can do. You can never bring space. Go outside of the city and bring the space. That's not possible. So wall of the pot, wall of the room, wall of the hall cannot divide the space, because space is not available for division. Therefore, it is as though division. These enclosures as though divide the space, etc. Space cannot be divided. So what does this wall do? Well, wall seems to divide the space. Seeming division is taken as a real division. And then we say small room, small hall, big pot, etc., etc. So Shankaracharya says, same mistake Yatha akashah, tatha rishikeshah. Rishikesha, Rishikanam Ishah. One who is, behind the senses and make the senses to function, make the senses to perceive the world. Shrotrasya shrotram, manaso manaha, vachoha vacham, pranasya pranaha, chakshusas chakshuhu. Kenopanishad says, well, these senses have a designation of a senses because of the consciousness behind it. Senses are able to perceive the things because they are conscious. And they are made up of inert elements we are going to see today. Senses are inert. But they function as though conscious, they are able to experience, perceive. One which experiences must be a conscious entity. An inert thing cannot experience anything. Right? Inert thing cannot experience. What is experience is inert. One who experiences is a conscious entity. And therefore, the senses are conscious even though they are inert and they have a consciousness. That means borrowed. Borrowed consciousness. And our donor is there always. Sakshi. We use consciousness, limitless consciousness, available all the time to lend the consciousness to the senses, mind, everything, to make the body also sentient. Your body is conscious, sentient to touch. It's inert, made up of 5 gross elements. So it's all due to the Sakshi. So Sakshi, well, because of that. Anyway, so here, Shankaracharya says, well, just as we commit a mistake in terms of, saying pot and hall and all this house and room and really speaking, and when you use really the space, but you never uttered the space. You have replaced the word space by word pot, room, this, that, etc. So, and by replacing word also there is nothing wrong, but you have literally, the dignity of this space has been lost, right? Because you say pot. So naturally you are going to say pot space. Ultimately it is pot space. Or even it is a flight space, whatever. Compared to the one all-pervading space, this is nothing. Flight space. So due to enclosures, the space has been enclosed, divided, small, size. All is, that kind of a mistake is not on the part of the space, it is on the part of the person who utilizes these words. No pot wall, room wall, no wall of the flight has divided the space. In fact, in one space all exist, and which is indivisible, all pervading. So Acharya has chosen this example. So same way here also we commit a mistake with respect to this Atma, Chaitanya, my real nature, basically is consciousness. It is indivisible, all pervading. But this body enclosure is created. Created means projected. Exactly like a pot is created from clay. There is no creation. We have discussed. That's how we have, first day itself we have made it. Pot is not created. Pot is a mere projection on clay. There is no pot. There is no pot plus clay. Or there is no pot, mere pot without clay. Pot is mere projection on clay. Same way this gross body, subtle body, mere projection by Maya or ignorance on Brahman. The substance is Brahman. That's how I yesterday said. Any cell consciousness. What are you saying? You please try to think later. Anything you talk about the body, without consciousness you can't talk about. How can you talk? Nobody can talk about anything pertaining to body, let us say, without being conscious of it. Not possible. So consciousness alone is substance here, which is the being, Sat. But this body, mind, sense complex is projected upon. Now the conscious being, in this consciousness which is limitless, is enclosed. Exactly like the space. Indivisible space. All pervading space is enclosed by the pot. But Swamiji, there the pot and space are two different things. Example has its own limitation, but we have to understand up to a certain point. Then we will bring a wave and water example. A wave is created from the water. It's still water. The reality is water. Wave, the name and form is projected upon the water. There is no reality of the wave. Right now also it is indivisible whole water. No wave can divide the water. One whole consciousness. Purnamadav Purnamidam. Purna, wholeness. All names and forms, nothing can divide. That's how when they appear, they cannot displace consciousness. When they disappear, there is no change in consciousness. Space consciousness, space cannot displace consciousness. Such a wide space, such a all-pervading space cannot do anything. Space resolves. Nothing happens to consciousness. You don't find the consciousness has now reduced because the space has gone. Anything appears or disappears. That's why it is mithya. Still I am the same consciousness, indivisible, non-dual. But anyway, so when the enclosure, body enclosure is projected through maya or ignorance, same consciousness obtained within the body and outside body when we say, I look upon myself as a conscious being, identifying with the body, mind, sense complex. Atma has been taken as anatma, body. Anatma has been superimposed upon Atma. Never say Atma is superimposed upon Anatma. Never say that. Anything which is superimposed is mithya. If Atma is superimposed upon Anatma, Atma is superimposed upon body, Swamiji. Never say that. Anatma is superimposed upon. Atma is taken as the body. That's true. That's true. But the bodies are superimposed because they are projection through maya. Not Atma is a projection of a maya. Atma is the reality. Clay is not projected upon clay, upon the pot. Pot is a projection upon clay. This is Vedanta. What is projected, what is not projected. Yes, one is taken as the other, that is very much true. Because in a mithya thing, Satyam is present. There is no mithya without Satyam. In fact, mithya is Satyam. Mithya is Satyam. Right? Where you see the pot, mithya thing, clear is right there. Right there. And that is why the mistake occurs. Because Satyam is present in the mithya. And so you take the mithya as Satyam and the Satyam as almost mithya, non-existent. This is the mistake occurs. That's the job of glory of this maya or ignorance. Anyway, and therefore, well, now I am a conscious being with this body, mind, sense complex, and then all problems, samsara appears. Moment I understand that I am space like consciousness in which enclosures like body appear and disappear, then I don't have a problem of janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. What is this, Swamiji? What did you say? I don't have a problem of janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Means the jnani who gains this knowledge will not have a old age, will not have a disease. Is it true? No. You won't take that you have a disease. That's the thing. Atmanam chet vijanyat ayam smiti purushah kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusanjvaret. Vidyaranya Swamiji explained that this jvara, various afflictions to the three bodies will remain. All the time remain. Born of prarabdha, at least two bodies. Therefore, whatever according to prarabdha will be there. And Acharya says all the time it will be there. Vidya Swami says. But you won't claim I am the body. That's how you become free from this. Anujvara they call. The jvara belongs to the body. Because of the identification, you claim that you stop. Samsara nivritti. I don't have a death. I don't have a old age. Right? Old age is coming. Before that Maharani comes, ringing the bell. Yeah. Teeth goes away, either this starts graying and everything. I'm tremendously afraid. People always want to show that they are quite young. Tell even lie in terms of age. 65 says 45. But 75, then he says 95. Means at the 95, I am like at 75. This is samsara. What belongs to body belongs to me. This is samsara. The vyadhi, etc., janma, death, etc., will not go. Will not go. Body will die, body will have an age, everything. You won't claim. Because you are free from enclosure. You are all pervading space. You are not part space. Right? You are not part space. You are all pervading space. I am taking example. This is samsara nivritti. There is no other solution to be free from the fear of old age and death other than this knowledge. Try. Eating 20 tablets in the morning, vitamins, this, that, iron and calcium and zinc and this and that, and running 10 miles, whatever you do. In the yoga, people says if you have a number of cycles of prana, some definite amount, 26,500 in one day, multiply some years, 365 in 2 years. So you have a definite number of cycles of inhalation and exhalation. If you start running, you will consume, you will exhaust faster. The prarabdha. So the person who exercises a lot, this is just by the way. There is no way out. The death to the myself is reality. Birth of myself is a reality. The old age to myself is a reality, is a Brahma. How can you say it is Brahma? I am body. If you are body, that body is your nature, nature cannot be given up. But you exist and body doesn't exist. That's your own experience. That's your own experience. You disidentify with the body. If body is you, if body resolves, you also will resolve. No. No. You exist. Body resolves. That's the thing. Once you take yourself a physical body, you are inviting all problems. All problems. Not just age and death and other complexions also. Height-wise you have problem, weight-wise you have problem, color of the skin-wise you have problem, looks-wise you have problem, health of the body also, health-wise you have problem. How many problems? Gender-wise, sometimes problem. Swamiji has to discuss female, male, this. Infinite. Ignorance of oneself leads to samsara. There is no perfect body. There is no perfect mind. That's what Vidya says in Panchadashi. There is no perfect body. No, Swamiji, my body is perfect. If you go and get it checked today, it's all, something will come. This is you are deficient in this. No perfect mind. They happen to be limited, and so it will be limited. Perfection will not be possible. No mind is perfect. No senses are perfect. No hunger, thirst is perfect. Nothing is perfect. Giving up the identification, disclaiming them because it is not you, disclaiming them is the only solution for removal of a samsara. Suffering, emotional suffering. Anyway, so Atma Jnanam shifts this vision from that I am Jivatma to I am Paramatma. So, gain knowledge and remove misconception. So let's look at the shloka. Akasha, this one indivisible space, Vibhuhu, which is all pervading, Nana Upadi Gataha, which obtains within several enclosures, like hall and pot and etc., rooms. Nana, different measurements. Gataha, which is obtained, these enclosures can't divide this space into small and big space, etc. There is one indivisible space. Then what is pot space? It is total space. There is no. What happens is we commit the first mistake and then second mistake follows. Two mistakes. There is something called pot space first. And pot space is small. The second mistake. Pot space is small and outside space is big. Ghatakasha, Mahakasha. Ghatakasha and Mahakasha, small space, big space are possible only when you can divide the space. But you cannot divide. In fact, all pots and everything exist in one space. There is, from the standpoint of space, there is nothing inside and outside. From the standpoint of space, there is nothing inside and outside. And therefore, there is something called pot space is a mistake. Then, second mistake, that pot space is small and outside space is big, is wrong. Therefore, I am a conscious being and I am 5 feet 8 inches and this covering 2 by 2 this space, etc. I am the body, mind, sense complex. Well, I am small. That's a mistake. And then the second mistake is, well, I have to become big. I have to become big. Wrong. So this is what it says here. I'm basically not a Jivatma. There is no Jivatma. If you identify with the body, mind, consciousness identified with one body, mind, sense complex is called Jiva. That identification itself is a mistake. One cannot identify with this body, mind, sense complex because it is mithya. There is no relationship of Atma with body, with the mind. In Dirgdashya Viveka, well, beautifully it has been described. There is no relationship other than this adhyasa. No relationship. What's the relationship between rope and snake? Satyam and mithya. What's the relationship between gold and ornament? What's the relationship between clay and pot? In relationship, at least two are required of a same order of reality. It's not there. Body, mind, sense complex is mithya. It's just a projection due to Maya. The reality is consciousness, and therefore there is no relationship at all. And if there is no relationship, there is identification. Like the fire identifies with the iron ball and makes a fireball. That's not possible because they are the same order of reality is there. So one identifies with the others. That's possible. That here it is not possible. So very concept of individuality is a Brahma. I am an individual jiva. I am a conscious being with this body, mind, sense complex. Is a Brahma. Delusion. And therefore Shastra says, be free. You, the jiva, is basically Paramatma. You have not to become Paramatma. Drop the notion that you are individual. Drop the notion, we should say to the space, drop the notion that you are part space. We are one indivisible, all-pervading space. That's the thing. That's how Shastra says you are Brahman, you are limitless consciousness. Shastra tells to a Pramata Jiva, who is operating a Pramana, Shastra Pramana. Otherwise, Shastra should say that, well, you, the Jiva, should become Brahman. Then Shastra has accepted the reality of Jiva. No. Shastra says you are Brahman. In vision of the Shastra and the teacher, you are none other than Brahman. And therefore, Jivatvam is Mithya. Jivatvam is Mithya. Pot space is Mithya. Room space is Mithya. Mithya. But Mithya means, but we are using, day before yesterday, I told you, what you use is Mithya. You use pot. You don't use clay. You don't use gold. You use a earring. Definitely you use names and forms. Of course it is Mithya, but then the reality is gold, etc. But that's how Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says Nama Rupa Karma. Particular form, shape serves a purpose. So this is, so here also, pot space, definitely it has a use. But since it has a usage, therefore it is real. No. No. Room space has a usage, not the, what you do with the pot space, you cannot do with the Mahakasha. What you do with the flight space, you cannot do with the total space. Total space is all the time available, in London also, in New York also. Huh. No use. Flight space is useful. Yeah. What is Mithya is useful. Anyway, so here it says, two mistakes, well, that is, have been committed on our part, that I am basically a Jivatma, etc. And then says, I am a Amsha of the Paramatma, etc. Various philosophies are also there. Well, I am not the Jivatma, which is within the body. Actually, all the bodies are within me, the consciousness, non-separate from me. They are not away from me. Well, they are not besides me. Right? They are not away from me. Nothing is away from consciousness. So they all existing. I am the consciousness existing in the body is wrong. I am the consciousness in which all the bodies, including the space, exist. That's the reality. I don't have a location that way. Anyway, so tad bhedat, because of the plurality. Tad bhedat means nana upadhi bheda. Because of this plurality and variety in enclosures, well, we assume in space also there is a plurality and variety. So bhinnavad bhati. Akashaha bhinnavad bhati. And not only that, further it says when enclosure is destroyed, well, we also use the expression, now pot space. Suppose pot is destroyed, we say pot space is merged into total space. As though pot space is doing some activity and merging into the Mahakasha, etc. Well, that is also apparent, that is nothing like that. So tan nashe, upadhi nashe, pot nashe, ghata nashe. When an enclosure is destroyed, kevalah bhavet. So when different spaces belong to room and pot and hall and this, well, the different spaces, when they are with the enclosures which are there, when the enclosures are gone, well, kevalah bhavet. One space remains. So Srushti Kale, ekam becomes anekam. Nasha Kale, anekam becomes ekam. Really? No. Apparently. So, now here first you read the whole verse with the akasha. Means yatha akashah nanopadigatah vibuhu akashah upadi bhedat bhinnavad bhati upadi nashe kevalah bhavet. Then start again with Rishikeshah. Tatha Rishikeshah nanopadigatah vibuhu. Well, upadi bhedat bhinnavad bhati upadi nashat kevalah bhavet. Upadi nashat. There also you need not have to destroy pot, need not have to destroy the walls of the room, need not have to destroy the flight, right? Nothing you have to destroy. In Vedanta, nasha means badha. Understanding mithya. That's it. That is nasha. That's a nasha here. No other nasha. So, here it says, Rishikesha, the Paramatma, my own higher nature, the Brahman, Vibhuhu, indivisible, non-dual, all-pervading, Nanopadigata, I Paramatma obtain in every body, including this body, like the clay obtain in every pot, or like the water obtain in every wave, like that. Not obtain, means there is somewhere the Atma is sitting. No. So this is, I obtain in every body. What mistake I commit? Tad bheda, because of the difference in the bodies, bhinnavad bhati, appears in different jivatmas. I am jivatma who is different from you, the jivatma, you, the individual, etc., etc. Basically, I is not different. Only containers are different. Right? Bodies are different. But the consciousness, well, the reality of everything is just one alone, which is indivisible, all-pervading. So that's how vat, binna vat. Vat stands for esto. There is no really bheda. So when we gain knowledge, tannashe, when you negate all these containers, when you understand them as just merely projection of a maya, etc., all the names and forms, physical negation is not required. Only cognitively. Kevalah bhavet. I remain as indivisible, non-dual consciousness. This is called Brahmajnana. I am non-dual, indivisible consciousness. And then, other than this knowledge, there is no other solution. Any individual goes anywhere, acquires any upadhi, any deha. If you go as an individual, you remain individual. Complaining, sense of limitation, lack, discomfort, that continues. Because that's not your nature. What you can do? What's not your nature, and then you somehow feel that this is you, you can't remain comfortable. You become comfortable once you establish in your nature, once you abide in your nature, that's the thing. Anyway, so even all other upadhis also called exalted upadhis. That's how Purana describes the Indra's samsara also. Indra has the bhayam and these and that and jealousy and these. Anyway, verse number 10. Nanopadi vashadeva jati varnashramadayah atmanyaropitastoye rasavarnadibhedavat. So until now, Shankaracharya talked about this both macro projection, Vyashtiyadhyasa, Samashtiyadhyasa, Prapanchadhyasa on Brahman, the Shariradhyasa on Brahman, the self. Now he gives a little more detail about this Vyashtiyadhyasa, which also we use in our transaction. So within Vyashti Adhyasa means this body Adhyasa, well, upon the self, Brahman. So I am Jivatma, etc. Then further classification I do. Further details in that Adhyasa also I give. In terms of what? Nana Upadi Vashad, because of these unreal projected bodies, which are temporary enclosures of Atma. Well, now, body has a certain attributes. Those attributes also are superimposed upon the Atma. Body is superimposed, and then the attribute of the bodies also are superimposed. What are the attributes of the body? Jati, Varna, Ashramadaya. Body has a certain jati, caste, etc. Janmana ajayati iti jati, which comes along with the birth. That is jati. So, well, I am Brahmana, I am this, etc. Now, Varna also means a caste, but here we will not take it that way. Varna means we will have to take it other attributes. Varnate anena iti varna. That's how they say. Varnate anena iti varna. Varna means we can take other attributes in terms of height of the body, let us say. Then weight of the body, etc. Complexion, age, right? All these are also superimposed upon Atma. Atma which does not have a age, which does not have a height, does not have a weight. Atma does not have any complexion. That Atma acquires everything because of the Upadi, body. So first body is superimposed upon Atma called Dharmi Adhyasa. Then the dharmas of the body, the attributes of the body also are superimposed upon Atma. Once you do Dharmi Adhyasa, Dharma Adhyasa is simple, immediately. The body is 50-year-old, so I say I am 50-year-old. Well, body is having a fair skin, etc. I said I am fair, etc. All this. So I'm. What's your height, Swami? 5 feet 8. I am 5 feet 8 inches, etc. What's your weight? Oh, this many pounds, etc., etc. So these various complexions, other also. These are also further details in Vyashti Adhyasa. And he gives an example. So he says, Jati Varna Ashramadaya Atmani Aropita. They are all superimposed upon Atma. And like what? Toye Rasar Varnadivat Toyam. Water. Colorless, tasteless. This is how we studied. Colorless, tasteless, and what? Odorless. Odorless. On that, several Rasavarnadivat. Rasavarnadi, well, they are aropita. Well, water has no intrinsic color, no intrinsic taste, no intrinsic odor. Well, but mixed with several other things. That's how it's called Upadi. Remaining near transfers as though the attribute is called Upadi. Upa samipe sthitva sviyan gunan adatte iti upadihi. Upa means samipe. We used to give an example of our standard example is of our crystal and japakusuma, the flower. So the redness of the flower, the attribute, is superimposed upon the crystal. Crystal appears red. Without being red, crystal remaining colorless appears red. Exactly like this. Here, Sharira, which is very close to the Atma. How close? How close? Non-separate. The distance between wave and water is the distance between body and the Atma. Right? There is no distance. Any mithya is never away from the Satyam. And therefore, so remaining close, whatever the attributes are there of the body are superimposed. So Atma is not acquired. Atma is intrinsically like crystal, free from all attributes, Nityam, Shuddham, etc. But as to acquires. So they're transferred attributes, but as to. So anyway, Rasavarna, Rasam. So water acquires different taste because of a sugar, you added sugar or salt, etc. Water never becomes salty. Water remains tasteless. Because of the sugar particles, you feel the taste of sugar. Therefore, they do the distillation, etc. No, we used to do that. Water they used to boil, and then they keep something like a condenser kind of a thing, and then the water comes out into that water has the sugar water, if you boil it, the water which comes out from the vapor and get condensed, etc., it is tasteless. Anyway, what I'm saying is water remaining intrinsically tasteless as though acquires the taste of sugar. Therefore, sugar is called upadhi. Salt is upadhi, etc. So when you say I am 58-year-old, you are not. If you understand, appreciate, you will enjoy. When you say I am 58, at that time also you are really not 58. Only you have transferred the attribute of the body called age falsely on the Atma. Atma intrinsically is free from any age. Bhagavan uses the word Puranaha. Pura eva navaha. From the beginning, Pura, from the beginningless time, it is Navaha. It is new, fresh, young. Atma is ever young. No, I'm old. So it is here. Swamiji, but we keep on saying like this, I am 58, I am 68. Really Atma never becomes. This is Upadhi. Upadhi is like this. It has to appear with the attributes, but no. So here, rasam, taste, varna, color. So definitely water has no intrinsic taste, water has no intrinsic color, etc. Water acquires, sometimes water appears red due to presence of iron, sometimes appears yellow due to presence of sulfur, etc. So it happens. So definitely this is all upadhi. This is a Veshti Adhyasa. So the bodies are superimposed upon the self, and then the dharmas of the body in terms of age, complexion, and all these are also superimposed. Further samsara. Samsara strengthens, gets strengthened with the Adhyasa. Adhyasa born out of Ajnanam. Ajnanam is the only cause of a samsara, suffering. There is no other cause. Okay, now about three bodies, well, we have to discuss. But I would like to tell you what Acharya has done here. Tattvabodha defines three bodies: Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, and Karana Shariram. Here Acharya describes these three bodies. Sthula Shariram has been described in verse number 11. Sukshma Sharira has been described in verse number 12, and Karana Sharira has been described in verse number 14. Oh, I'm sorry. Sukshma Sharira has been described in verse number 12. I'm sorry, yeah. And Sukshma Sharira 13 and Karana Sharira 14. Yeah. He has described these three bodies in terms of features. 4 features of each body has been described. First is the nature of the body, nature of gross body. Then how the gross body is, what is the material of the gross body? That's the second feature. Third is what is the function of the gross body? And what is the life duration of gross body? Then Sukshma Sharira. Again, same 4 features. What is the nature of Sukshma Sharira? What is the material used to make the subtle body? What is the function of the subtle body? And what is life duration of subtle body? Then what is the nature of Karana Sharira? What is the material out of which Karana Sharira is made? Very beautifully described. This is just for your further study. Then what is the function of Karana Sharira? And what is life duration of Karana Sharira? These 3 Shariras, Anatma, of course, which are superimposed upon Atma in a Veshti Adhyasa, These three shariras are described in terms of four features of each. We will not be able to take, but this is the discussion. And then, well, he says this is all adhyasa, and you should know Atma. Atmanam avadharayet, he says in verse number 14. May you know the Atma, and no anatma is a anatma. Atma anatma, viveka is the solution. Viveka jnanam is the solution for the removal of samsara. This is how verse number 6 to 14, he describes the importance of ajnanam by saying that ajnanam is the only cause for a samsara. But we'll stop here. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.